Hi, my name is Gibson, and I'm the owner and founder of the Personal Development School. This is your daily breakthrough video. Today we're going to be talking about the attachment series and fearful avoidant attachment style. If you receive a lot of value from this video, please like it, share it, subscribe to our channel, pass this information along to other people, and also check out www.personaldevelopmentschool.com for any online upcoming courses, in-person courses, other videos, tips, tools, worksheets, all that kind of good stuff. So fearful avoidant attachment style is a more recently commonly recognized attachment style. And it's sort of this idea that there's this ongoing ambivalence of the person who is of this attachment style. Meaning really that they never want to be too close or too far from their partner. Now, in childhood, this develops because a child really wants their caregiver to meet their emotional needs and feels very connected and reliant and dependent, doesn't completely break off and begin this self-soothing process, although there's a little bit more there than the anxious attachment style person. And so basically they're totally dependent on their caregiver to meet their needs emotionally, physically, mentally. They feel that, they recognize that. And at the same time, they don't trust their caregiver completely. And this usually comes because of that child living in sort of an emotionally turbulent household where maybe the parents would fight a lot, maybe there was mental, physical abuse, and they either saw that and then painted either parent as sort of the villain, like, oh my goodness, I've seen my parent abuse the other parent, or they were the recipient of some kind of physical abuse, sometimes sexual abuse, different types of mental, emotional abuse, of course, as well. And either way, whether that abuse was to them or between the parents themselves, they sort of learn that love is this turbulent thing and there's a lot of emotional chaos involved, and they never fully open enough to trust their caregivers. So imagine, in your adult life, if you were dependent on somebody to meet your needs and you didn't trust them at the same time. It creates this like, I need you, but don't get too close. I need you, but don't get too close. And this is what the fearful avoidant attachment style person is sort of living in, this realm of really wanting and needing love and connection, and also fearing it simultaneously. And again, it really creates this ambivalence, like this push-pull. And so in the fearful avoidant person's adult life, because there's this emotional chaos and turbulence associated with love, the fearful avoidant person often experiences what you could think of as sort of this emotional storm, where it's like they want, they don't want, they want, and this push-pull dynamic, you could say, sort of creates these breeding grounds to have all this inner chaos, and eventually that sort of projectile comes outward. And often that person takes that out on their partner in their adult life. And this is because this is what they saw, and this was their subconscious mind's earliest associations for what love is. And this is where the subconscious mind actually feels safe in a way, because there's that sense of familiarity. And this is also because they're going through so much inner turbulence at a subconscious level, really, that eventually it's just breeding grounds for resentment and strong emotion and negativity and anger and frustration. Because again, imagine what it would feel like to live day to day in your close relationships, really wanting that love and connection, really wanting to open your heart, and also feeling so afraid and negative and angry. And here's another characteristic that the fearful avoidant attachment style has. The fearful avoidant person generally feels this generally has something, a quality or a characteristics we could call it depth of processing, where they tend to pick up so much on micro expressions, body language, change in tonality. And just like the anxious attachment person is attuned to picking up on this stuff because they're trying to make sure they can try to sort of control or manipulate their way out of feeling abandoned or rejected, the fearful avoidant person is basically trying to control or manipulate their way out of being betrayed and feeling stupid for being betrayed and feeling hurt, because again, their core wound is basically related to trust. It's like, I want to love, but I have such an underlying fear of being made a fool of in some way, hurt, abused, like any kind of being on the recipient end. Helplessness is a huge fear for the fearful avoidant person, like really afraid of feeling helpless and trapped. But also, and the fearful avoidant person can feel afraid of feeling helpless and trapped because even in the context of love, you could think of it. So for example, the fearful avoidant person, when they love too much or fall in love too far, can feel a feeling of helplessness and trapped to that love, and can respond spitefully and with anxiety and anger and frustration and resentment, because at a subconscious level, they're associating their partner as actually being part of the source of their helplessness and trappedness. And so again, they're kind of like going through these internal tornado experiences all the time. And again, that fearful avoidant person, often because they come from so much emotional chaos, and because that's just a familiar space and part of their earliest associations for what love is, often then creates more emotional chaos in their adult lives. So, they can be really angry, really volatile, yell, break things, be physically, mentally, emotionally abusive. All types can be this way, but just fearful avoidance, just as a general pattern, has a slightly greater likelihood, because again, this is what they saw in their early lives. And so this is what is often made manifest later on in life. So with that being said, it's very difficult to be a fearful avoidant person. The core wound is largely related to fear of distrust, trapped, helplessness, being hurt deeply in some emotionally chaotic way, and not really being able to find their way out. And again, they sort of oscillate in this paradigm or spectrum between feeling fear of being too close and fear of being too far. And it's just sort of spinning their wheels in between that. So how do you work through this? What I've found in my work with people is that the fearful avoidant person really needs to learn how to communicate. So because they have this really strong depth of processing thing, they're so hyper attuned to other people's needs. Like, let's pretend that their partner comes home 5 minutes late. This is what the fearful avoidant person would do. Instead of feeling afraid of that person's safety or rejection or abandonment, right away, that's like they are suspicious. And they won't even necessarily let you know they're suspicious. They tend to internalize that because, of course, if they express their fear of suspicion, they're too vulnerable, and they might be loving too much, or they might care too much. And so they'll sort of not express it and almost internalize it. But then they'll sort of be the detective and pick out things. And sometimes this person, unfortunately, just ends up assigning a lot of untrue meaning to a person's actions. So, maybe the person was seriously stuck in traffic for 5 minutes, and the fearful avoidant person would go, they tried to get away with cheating, but they couldn't. And, and they wouldn't say anything. Fearful avoidant people tend to have a hard time expressing and being vulnerable. And so instead, that comment will come out 10 minutes later in an argument where I knew you were cheating and that's why you're late. Or even more challenging, sometimes they will just seemingly lash out for no apparent reason, which they may or may not be recognizing is actually the result of earlier suspicions or fears, or the assumption of a betrayal in some form. Or they might realize that that's where it's coming from, but just not want to express it because they may not feel safe becoming that vulnerable to their partner. Because really that is this indirect admission of how much they care, and that would just make them feel more helpless again. So the fearful avoidant person, again, struggles with a lot of this emotional turbulence, and the expression and communication and that vulnerability piece is huge. So to be able to say, I feel afraid because you're home late. I felt uncomfortable or insecure, and this is probably related to some of my past core wounds or experiences, but this is what I'm feeling. And that expression it leaves no room for stories, because if you have a healthy bond with your partner and in that relationship, then that person can say, no, like I was really in traffic, look, and try to reinforce that you are in fact safe in the relationship. So that's one thing that's super important is vulnerability for a fearful avoidant person, and learning to realize that you are strong enough and you are no longer in your childhood experiences, and you're strong enough now to be vulnerable until whether whatever storms or whatever problems come your way. Let's say that the person did in fact cheat, or they were doing something harmful to you in some way, directly or indirectly. You're strong enough now. You're not this helpless child anymore. And to realize that you have autonomy and freedom to make the decision to leave a relationship if you ever needed to. And so it's safe to be vulnerable now. And that's super important for the fearful avoidant type. What's also extremely important is to do reprogramming on safety, trust, and safety as it connects to being loved. So it is safe to give and receive love. And writing, reprogramming is really about convincing your subconscious mind, which means because the subconscious mind is programmed through repetition plus emotion, you really want to repeatedly give your brain reasons why you're safe now, and why you're no longer in childhood, and why you're no longer trapped or helpless or powerless. And these are really important key points to make sure you're hitting as you go through and do this work. So, for example, I am safe now because if my partner were to hurt me in a way that was completely unjustified and inappropriate, I have the adult, God-given right to get up and leave. I trust myself to take care of myself, to be able to heal from these situations. I have autonomy now. I have freedom. I can drive. I can, get a new place if I had to. And sort of convincing your brain you are safe in the worst case scenario. And then also convincing your brain through repetition and reasoning that convincing your brain that it is safe to be vulnerable. It's okay to express love. I'm not trapped just because I have strong feelings. And to really break these unconscious associations that your brain has been making between loving so much and making you dependent and thus trapped and helpless and powerless. Because again, beneath the surface, these are a lot of the core wounds and subconscious associations that your brain is making. And please watch my videos on reprogramming in more detail. I don't want to make this video so extremely long now, but again, the subconscious mind is programmed through repetition plus emotion. You get these programs through a lot of repetitive emotional experiences, which means you have to undo them through convincing your brain with specific examples and reasoning, with repetition and emotion. That's what the specific examples and reasonings are to your brain, why you are safe now. So those major links. I am not trapped, helpless, and powerless just because I love. So you ideally want to frame it in the positive. So I am free, empowered, and strong when I love. And I am free, strong, and empowered enough to leave if I ever needed to leave, and sort of setting that worst case scenario assumption to rest for your brain. And the more reasons why you have for this, the better. And also, convincing your brain why love is safe. It is safe to love, and all the reasons why. It serves the highest expression of myself could be a reason. Because I learn more about myself. I grow as a person. Loving makes me feel good. Giving and receiving love makes me feel a sense of fulfillment, and really going through and putting those core reasonings in there as well. So, again, if you're a fearful, avoidant, attachment style person, I hope this video is really powerful for you. I myself was a fearful, avoidant, attachment style person, and I understand how challenging the dynamics of a relationship can be, but with some reprogramming, with some serious seeing those wounds and isolating them and understanding them and then integrating them, you can really change into a secure attachment style. And again, that vulnerability piece is key to actually communicate. Hey, this is what I'm feeling. This is my experience. And to not continuously assign unconscious meaning to things, leave those stories unquestioned, and then project your pains or frustrations onto your partner. And lastly, if you are a fearful, avoidant attachment style, and if you do experience emotional chaos and stress, please know that this is because of experiences you had in childhood. It doesn't make you a bad person or a faulty person or that something's wrong with you. It means that you've experienced some trauma in regards to relationships that you haven't had the tools and the chance to properly process yet. And this goes with all attachment styles that are, a little bit more challenging outside of course, the secure attachment style. So please know that in any of these cases or contexts, there are challenges that come with this, and there are obstacles in your relationships, and none of this is your fault. These were programs you got, and none of this was the people's fault who you got the programs from. They experience the same challenges and trials and tribulations. And this is the result more so of collective issues in society and challenges that we haven't had the tools to process. So there's no need to blame or resent, but there is every reason to be accountable for these things once you have this awareness, and you deserve to heal and to live a more fulfilled life. Thank you so much for watching. Again, please like, share, subscribe to this channel if you receive a lot of value, and please feel free to check anything out at www.personaldevelopmentschool.com. Thank you so much.